There is a box of salt that costs $1 at any grocery store in America. It kills every species of mold on contact, penetrates the root structure beneath the surface, and prevents regrowth permanently when applied correctly. A professional mold remediation service charges between $4,000 and $12,000 to treat a single home. And in most cases, the mold returns within 18 months because the treatment was engineered to be temporary. The mold removal industry in the United States generates over $22 billion annually, and every single dollar of that revenue depends on one thing: mold coming back. A permanent cure that costs $1 cannot be patented. It cannot be licensed. It cannot be sold as a proprietary formula. And that is precisely why 31 states have passed building codes and remediation regulations that funnel homeowners towards certified professionals using branded chemical treatments, effectively making it illegal to treat your own mold problem outside their system. The salt-based method that your great-grandmother used without a second thought has been quietly erased from public knowledge. Not because it failed, but because it worked so well, it threatened to collapse an industry built on repeat failure. This is the story of the salt method that the mold remediation industry prayed you would never find. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. If these stories matter to you, hit subscribe and the bell. This is where we dig up what the industry buried. Now let me take you back to where this formula was born. Salt has been used as a preservative and antimicrobial agent for over 8,000 years. The ancient Egyptians packed their dead in natron, a naturally occurring mineral salt, because they understood that sodium in high concentrations creates an environment where biological growth cannot survive. But the specific use of salt as a mold killer in residential structures traces back to a far more recent and far more deliberate moment in American history. In 1903, a materials scientist named Dr. Edwin Gruber at the University of Wisconsin conducted a series of experiments on wood rot and fungal colonization in dairy barns across the upper Midwest. Gruber discovered that a saturated sodium chloride solution, nothing more than ordinary table salt dissolved in warm water at maximum concentration, killed Stachybotrys chartorum, the black mold species responsible for most structural damage and respiratory illness, within 4 hours of direct application. His findings were published in the University of Wisconsin Agricultural Bulletin Volume 17 in the spring of 1904. The method was simple. Dissolve salt in hot water until no more would dissolve. Apply it liberally to the affected surface. Allow it to dry. The crystalline residue left behind created a sodium barrier that was chemically hostile to fungal spores. Mold could not germinate on it. Mold could not feed through it. Mold could not survive contact with it. For the next 3 decades, salt treatment was the standard practice among farmers, carpenters, and home builders across rural America. It cost nothing. It required no specialized training, and it worked permanently on porous surfaces like wood, grout, and plaster, the exact materials where mold does the most damage. Then came the chemical revolution of the 1940s. During World War II, American chemical companies expanded their production capacity to manufacture disinfectants, fungicides, and synthetic biocides for military applications. When the war ended, those factories needed new markets. Companies like Dow Chemical and Monsanto began producing chlorine-based mold treatments and quaternary ammonium compounds specifically formulated for residential use. These products worked, but they worked temporarily by design. Chlorine bleach, the product most commonly recommended for mold treatment from the 1950s onward, kills surface mold on contact, but evaporates within minutes, leaving behind moisture that actually accelerates regrowth in porous materials. The sodium hypochlorite in bleach cannot penetrate wood or grout the way a saturated salt solution can. The chemical industry knew this. A 1961 internal research memo from Dow Chemical later surfaced during a product liability case in Ohio in 1987, explicitly noted that chlorine-based surface treatments, quote, had no residual antifungal efficacy on porous substrates beyond 72 hours, end quote. They knew the product failed. They sold it anyway. They sold it for decades. And they built an entire consumer expectation around the idea that mold is a recurring problem requiring recurring purchases. By the 1970s, the saturated salt method had vanished from consumer awareness entirely. It was not taught in trade schools. It was not recommended by contractors. It was not sold in stores, because you cannot sell something that already sits in every kitchen cabinet in America for $1. The suppression was not violent. It was commercial. It was quiet. And it was devastatingly effective. An entire generation forgot what their grandparents knew without ever being told to forget it. Now, before I continue, I need to stop and tell you something important. Everything you are hearing today is part of a larger collection of suppressed methods and buried knowledge that we have been assembling for months. It is called the Forbidden Camping Vault, and it is available right now. Inside, you will find the full salt mold treatment protocol with exact ratios for every surface type in your home, including drywall, tile grout, and exposed framing lumber. You will find the 70-cent engine treatment that a retired Navy mechanic used to keep diesel motors running past 500,000 miles, a method the oil change industry refuses to acknowledge. You will find the borax and linseed formula that waterproofs a wooden deck for over 15 years without a single reapplication, replacing products that cost $60 a gallon and fail in 2 seasons. You will find the suppressed headlight restoration method using toothpaste and a specific grit sequence that outperforms every $20 kit on the market for 11 cents. You will find the vinegar and clay recipe that strips rust from cast iron and carbon steel without damaging the base metal, a technique blacksmiths used for centuries before chemical rust removers existed. You will find the pine tar wood finish that was standard on American homes before 1920 and was abandoned only because it could not generate repeat sales. You will find the calcium carbonate drain clearing method that replaced a $900 plumber visit in a home in Tulsa, Oklahoma last year. Over 10 guides in one place. No filler, straight to the point. The link is in the description right below this video. But stay right here because the science behind this is about to change how you see everything. The reason salt kills mold permanently is not a mystery. It is basic chemistry that any first-year biology student can verify. Mold is a living organism. Like all living organisms, it requires water at a cellular level to survive and reproduce. Sodium chloride, when dissolved in water and applied to a surface, creates a hypertonic environment. That means the salt concentration outside the mold cell is dramatically higher than the concentration inside the mold cell. Through a process called osmotic lysis, water is drawn out of the mold cell through its membrane, causing the cell to collapse and die. This is not a theory. This is the same mechanism that has preserved meat and fish for millennia. A 2011 study published in the International Biodeterioration and Biodegradation Journal by researchers at the Technical University of Denmark tested sodium chloride solutions at concentrations above 26% saturation against 11 common indoor mold species, including Aspergillus niger, Penicillium chrysogenum, and Stachybotrys cartarum. Every single species showed complete growth inhibition within 6 hours, complete cellular death within 24 hours, and zero regrowth over a 90-day observation period on wood and plight substrates. Zero regrowth, 90 days, for salt. A second study conducted in 2015 at the University of São Paulo, published in the Journal of Applied Microbiology, confirmed that dried sodium chloride crystal residue on porous surfaces maintained antifungal activity for over 360 days under normal indoor humidity conditions. 1 year, from a single application. From salt. Now compare that to the commercial mold-killing sprays sold at every hardware store in America. The active ingredients in most consumer mold products are either sodium hypochlorite at concentrations below 3%, which evaporates too quickly to penetrate porous material, or quaternary ammonium compounds, which break down under UV light and lose efficacy within days. These products are not designed to fail entirely. They are designed to work just well enough that you believe they solve the problem, and fail just fast enough that you need to buy another can in 6 weeks. The system is not broken. It is working exactly as designed. The salt method leaves behind a physical crystalline barrier that does not evaporate, does not degrade under normal conditions, and cannot be metabolized by fungal organisms. It is, in every measurable scientific sense, a permanent antimicrobial surface treatment, and it costs $1. The mold remediation industry in the United States was valued at $22.7 billion in 2023, according to market analysis from Grandview Research. That figure is projected to reach $31 billion by 2030. Companies like ServPro, ServiceMaster, and Advanta Clean operate franchise models that depend on repeat service calls. The average homeowner who discovers mold in a bathroom, basement, or attic is quoted between $3,000 and $8,000 for professional remediation. That remediation typically involves applying proprietary chemical treatments that contain ingredients available at any industrial supply store for a fraction of the cost, followed by a recommendation to schedule annual inspections at $200 to $400 per visit. This is not a repair model. This is a subscription economy built around fear and chemical dependency. You cannot build a subscription economy around a permanent fix. If salt worked, and it does, every franchisee in that $22 billion industry would lose their revenue stream overnight. That is not speculation. That is arithmetic. The raw ingredient, sodium chloride, is the most abundant mineral on Earth. It is produced in quantities exceeding 300 million metric tons per year globally. It is available at every grocery store, every gas station, and every dollar store in America. It cannot be patented. It cannot be licensed. There is no intellectual property protection possible for a substance that has been in the public domain for the entirety of human civilization. And because it cannot be owned, it cannot be marketed with margins. No company will spend money advertising a solution that sends the customer to the baking aisle instead of the chemical aisle. The information is not hidden behind a classified document. It is hidden behind something far more effective: irrelevance. Search algorithms prioritize commercial content. Retail shelves prioritize branded products. Contractor certifications prioritize proprietary methods. The salt sits in your pantry, and the entire market structure is arranged so that you never think to use it. If this information is reaching you for the first time, share this video with someone you know who is dealing with mold. Hit the subscribe button if you have not already. Every share pushes this past the algorithm that wants it buried. Here's the exact method. You will need 3 things. One 26-ounce container of non-iodized table salt, available for $1 or less at any grocery store. Iodized salt works but may leave a faint yellow residue on white surfaces, so non-iodized is preferred. 1 gallon of clean warm water, heated to approximately 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the temperature of hot tap water in most homes, and 1 standard spray bottle or a clean sponge. Begin by pouring the warm water into a large mixing container, a clean bucket, or a large pot. Add the salt slowly, stirring continuously until no more salt will dissolve. You will know you have reached saturation when salt crystals begin accumulating at the bottom of the container and will not dissolve regardless of stirring. This is called a saturated solution, and it occurs at approximately 36 grams of salt per 100 milliliters of water at that temperature. Pour the saturated solution into your spray bottle, leaving the undissolved crystals behind. Identify every mold-affected surface in the area you are treating. For bathroom tile grout, spray the saturated solution directly onto the grout lines until they are visibly wet. For wood surfaces in basements or attics, apply the solution with a sponge, pressing firmly to ensure penetration into the grain. For drywall, spray lightly and allow absorption without oversaturating, as excessive moisture on untreated drywall can cause structural softening. Allow the solution to dry completely. This takes between 4 and 8 hours depending on ventilation and humidity. Do not wipe the surface after application. The goal is to leave the crystalline salt residue in place permanently. That residue is your barrier. For severe infestations where mold has penetrated deeper than 1/4 inch into wood or plaster, apply the solution twice, allowing full drying between applications. The double application drives salt crystals deeper into the pore structure of the material. One critical safety warning must be observed. Do not combine the salt solution with any chlorine-based bleach product. Sodium chloride in the presence of sodium hypochlorite and an acid catalyst, which can occur if residual cleaning products are present on the surface, can release chlorine gas. In 1991, a custodial worker at a public school in Bakersfield, California, was hospitalized after mixing a salt-based cleaning solution with an industrial bleach concentrate in a poorly ventilated utility closet. Chlorine gas exposure at concentrations above 1 part per million causes respiratory distress. Ensure the surface is free of bleach residue before applying the salt treatment and always work in a ventilated space. The total cost of treating an entire bathroom with this method is approximately $1.12. The total cost of treating a 10 by 12 foot basement wall is approximately $1.60, including the spray bottle. A professional remediation company will charge between $3,000 and $8,000 for the same square footage using chemicals that will fail within 6 months. That is not an estimate. That is a direct price comparison between a permanent solution and a designed-to-fail service. This knowledge did not disappear because it was wrong. It did not disappear because something better was invented. It disappeared because it was free. And free fixes do not build industries. Your grandparents knew this. The generation that built their own homes, preserved their own food, and fixed their own problems without calling a franchise number, they used salt to stop mold, the same way they used vinegar to stop rust and wood ash to strip paint. They did not need a certified technician. They needed a kitchen cabinet. What was taken from you was not just a cleaning method. It was the confidence to solve your own problems with ingredients that have worked for centuries. Every time you learn one of these methods, you take something back. Every time you share it, you make it harder to bury. Subscribe to this channel because this is where suppressed knowledge lives. Share this video because someone you know is about to write a $4,000 check for something that costs $1. Hit the like button because it tells the algorithm that this matters, and the algorithm does not want you to know that. The next vault opens soon, and what is inside is even heavier than what you heard today.